One quiet morning in the countryside, a woman named Alina stood at the window of her family's grand estate, looking out at the vast farmlands that stretched beyond the hills. She was known across the region as the daughter of one of the wealthiest families in the country. Her father owned multiple businesses, properties in several cities, and investments that reached across borders. But despite all the luxury that surrounded her, Alina felt empty inside. She had grown tired of the endless parties, the shallow conversations, and the men who only saw her family's wealth when they looked at her. That morning, she made a decision that would change everything. She decided to leave the city and spend some time in the countryside, far away from the noise and expectations that had suffocated her for years. A few days later, Alina arrived in a small village called Greenfield. The village was simple and quiet. Farmers worked in the fields. Children played near the river. And the air smelled fresh, nothing like the polluted city she had left behind. Alina rented a small cottage on the edge of the village. It was nothing compared to the mansion she grew up in, but somehow it felt more peaceful. She spent her days walking through the village, greeting the locals and slowly learning about their lives. And then one afternoon, while walking along a narrow dirt road, she saw him. A man was working alone in a large field. He was tall and strong, his shirt slightly dirty from the soil. His movements were steady and focused as he guided a plow through the earth. Alina stopped and watched him for a moment. There was something different about him, something calm and honest. She did not know his name yet, but she felt drawn to him in a way she could not explain. The next day, Alina walked past the same field again. This time, the man noticed her. He paused his work and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Then he smiled and waved. Alina hesitated for a second before waving back. That small gesture was the beginning of everything. A few days later, Alina gathered the courage to approach him. She walked to the edge of the field where he was resting under the shade of a large tree. "Excuse me," she said politely. The man looked up and smiled warmly. "Yes, how can I help you? My name is Alina," she said. "I just moved to the village." The man stood up and dusted his hands. "Nice to meet you, Alina. My name is Samuel." They shook hands. His grip was firm but gentle. "So you are new here," Samuel said. "What brings you to a quiet place like this?" Alina smiled. "I needed a break from the city." Samuel nodded slowly. "I understand. The city can be overwhelming." They talked for a while that afternoon. Samuel told her about his farm, about how he had been working the land for many years. Alina listened carefully. She noticed how passionate he was when he spoke about his work. There was no pretense in his words, no attempt to impress her, just honesty. When the sun began to set, Alina said goodbye and walked back to her cottage. But that night she could not stop thinking about Samuel. Over the following weeks, Alina and Samuel spent more time together. She would visit him at the farm almost every day. Sometimes she helped him plant seeds. Other times she simply sat under the tree and watched him work. They talked about many things, about life, about dreams, about the simple joys that people often overlooked. Samuel never asked her about her family or her background. He treated her like an ordinary person, and that was exactly what Alina needed. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, Samuel turned to her. "You seem different from the other people I have met," he said quietly. Alina looked at him. "Different how?" Samuel smiled. "You do not talk much about yourself. Most people cannot stop talking about their achievements or their plans, but you just listen." Alina felt her heart warm at his words. "Maybe I am just tired of talking about myself," she said softly. Samuel nodded. "I understand that feeling." There was a comfortable silence between them. Then Samuel spoke again. "I like spending time with you, Alina." She looked into his eyes. "I like spending time with you too, Samuel." As the months passed, their friendship slowly turned into something deeper. Alina found herself falling in love with Samuel. And though he never said it directly, she could see in his eyes that he felt the same way. One afternoon, while they were walking through the village market together, Samuel stopped in front of a small flower stall. He picked up a simple bouquet of wildflowers and handed it to Alina. "For you," he said with a shy smile. Alina took the flowers and felt tears forming in her eyes. No one had ever given her something so simple yet so meaningful. "Thank you, Samuel," she whispered. Samuel looked at her gently. "Alina, there is something I need to tell you." She looked up at him. "What is it?" Samuel took a deep breath. "I do not have much to offer. I am just a farmer. I work hard every day, but I do not have wealth or a big house." Alina shook her head quickly. "I do not care about any of that." Samuel smiled. "Then I want you to know that I care about you deeply, and if you will allow me, I would like to build a life with you." Alina's heart swelled with emotion. She stepped closer and took his hand. "Yes, Samuel, I want that too." A few weeks later, Alina decided it was time to tell her family about Samuel. She knew they would not understand. She knew they would be upset. But she also knew that she could not hide her feelings any longer. So she traveled back to the city and went to her father's estate. When she entered the large living room, her father, Mr. Harrington, was sitting in his usual chair reading the newspaper. Her mother, Mrs. Harrington, was arranging flowers in a vase nearby. "Father, Mother," Alina said as she walked in, "I need to talk to you about something important." Mr. Harrington looked up from his paper. "What is it, Alina?" Alina took a deep breath. "I met someone." Mrs. Harrington smiled slightly. "Oh, that is wonderful, dear. Who is he? What family does he come from?" Alina hesitated. "He is a farmer." The room fell silent. Mr. Harrington slowly put down his newspaper. "A farmer," he repeated. "Yes," Alina said. "His name is Samuel. He lives in the village where I have been staying." Mr. Harrington's expression hardened. "You cannot be serious." Alina stepped forward. "I am very serious, Father. I love him." Mrs. Harrington gasped. "Alina, do you understand what you are saying? You come from one of the most respected families in this country. You cannot marry a farmer." Alina looked at her mother. "Why not?" "Because it is beneath you," Mr. Harrington said firmly. "We did not raise you to throw away your future like this." Alina felt her chest tight. "I am not throwing away my future. I am choosing to be with someone who truly cares about me." Mr. Harrington stood up. "That man does not care about you, Alina. He only cares about your money." Alina shook her head. "He does not even know about our family's wealth. I never told him." Mr. Harrington laughed bitterly. "Then he is a fool, and you are being naive." Alina felt tears forming in her eyes, but she refused to cry. "I came here to tell you that I am going to marry him, whether you approve or not." Mrs. Harrington looked shocked. "Alina, please, think about what you are doing." Alina looked at both of them one last time. "I have already made my decision." Then she turned and walked out of the house. A few days later, Alina returned to the village. When she arrived at Samuel's farm, he was working in the field as usual. But when he saw her, he immediately stopped and walked over. "Alina," he said with concern. "Is everything all right?" Alina smiled through her tears. "Everything is fine now." Samuel gently wiped a tear from her cheek. "What happened?" Alina took his hand. "I told my family about us." "And what did they say?" "They were not happy," Alina admitted. "But I do not care. I choose you, Samuel." Samuel looked at her with deep emotion. "Are you sure about this?" Alina nodded. "I have never been more sure about anything in my life." Samuel pulled her into a warm embrace. "Then we will face everything together," he whispered. A few weeks later, Alina and Samuel were married in a small ceremony in the village. There were no grand decorations, no expensive gowns, no long guest lists, just a simple gathering of villagers who had come to know and love Alina during her time there. The ceremony took place under a large tree near Samuel's farm. A local priest officiated the wedding. Alina wore a simple white dress she had bought from the village tailor. Samuel wore a clean shirt and trousers. When the priest asked them to exchange vows, Samuel took Alina's hands and spoke from his heart. "Alina, you came into my life like a blessing I never expected. You saw me not as a poor farmer, but as a man worthy of love. I promise to work hard every day to make you happy. I promise to stand by you no matter what challenges we face. And I promise to love you with all my heart for as long as I live." Alina's eyes filled with tears. "Samuel, you showed me what true love really means. You never asked for anything from me except my honesty and my heart. I promise to support you in everything you do. I promise to build a life with you filled with love and respect. And I promise to never let anything come between us." The priest smiled and declared them husband and wife. The villagers clapped and cheered. Samuel gently kissed Alina, and in that moment nothing else in the world mattered. After the wedding, Alina moved into Samuel's small farmhouse. It was a simple structure with just 2 rooms, a small kitchen, and a modest bedroom. The roof was old, and during heavy rains, water sometimes leaked through. But Alina did not complain. She cleaned the house, planted flowers around the compound, and slowly made it feel like home. Every morning she woke up early to prepare breakfast for Samuel before he went to work in the fields. Sometimes she joined him and helped with the planting or harvesting. The work was hard, and her hands, which had once been soft and delicate, became rough and calloused. But she did not mind, because every evening when Samuel returned home tired and dusty, he would smile at her with such love and gratitude that it made everything worth it. The villagers admired Alina. They had expected her to leave after a few weeks, thinking she would not be able to handle the hard life. But Alina proved them wrong. She adapted quickly and became a part of the community. She helped the women in the village with their chores. She played with the children, and she never once acted like she was better than anyone else. But even though Alina was happy, there were moments when she missed her family. She missed her mother's voice. She missed the conversations she used to have with her father, even though they often disagreed. One night, as she lay beside Samuel in their small bed, she spoke softly. "Samuel, do you think my family will ever forgive me?" Samuel turned to her and gently stroked her hair. "I do not know, Alina, but I do know that you made your choice out of love, and that is something to be proud of." Alina nodded. "I just hope that one day they will understand." Samuel kissed her forehead. "They will. Give them time." Meanwhile, back in the city, Mr. and Mrs. Harrington were struggling with their own emotions. Mr. Harrington was angry and disappointed. He could not understand why his daughter had chosen such a life. Mrs. Harrington, on the other hand, was heartbroken. She missed Alina terribly and often cried when she thought about her. One evening, Mrs. Harrington sat quietly in Alina's old room, looking at the photographs on the wall. Mr. Harrington walked in and found her there. "You need to stop torturing yourself," he said. She made her choice. Mrs. Harrington looked at him with tears in her eyes. "She is our daughter. We cannot just abandon her." Mr. Harrington sighed. "I am not abandoning her. I am simply waiting for her to come to her senses." Mrs. Harrington shook her head. "What if she never does? What if she is truly happy with him?" Mr. Harrington did not answer. Deep down, he was beginning to wonder the same thing. Months passed. Life in the village continued peacefully. Alina and Samuel grew even closer. They worked together, laughed together, and supported each other through every challenge. But one day, something unexpected happened. A group of men in expensive suits arrived in the village. They drove large black vehicles and immediately drew attention. The villagers watched curiously as the men stepped out and began asking questions. They were looking for someone. They were looking for Samuel. When the men finally found Samuel working in his field, they approached him respectfully. "Excuse me, sir," one of them said. "Are you Samuel Greaves?" Samuel looked up, confused. "Yes, I am. Who are you?" The man smiled. "My name is Mr. Thompson. I am a royal advisor. We have been searching for you for a very long time." Samuel frowned. "Searching for me? Why?" Mr. Thompson took a deep breath. "Because you are the rightful heir to the throne of the Northern Kingdom." The words hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Samuel stared at the man in disbelief. "I think you have the wrong person," Samuel said. Mr. Thompson shook his head. "No, sir, we have confirmed it. Your father was King Edward III. He passed away many years ago, but before he died, he had a son with a woman he loved deeply. That son was hidden away to protect him from those who wanted to harm the royal family. You are that son." Samuel felt his legs weaken. This cannot be true. Mr. Thompson pulled out several documents and handed them to Samuel. "These are the records, your birth certificate, letters from your father, everything is here." Samuel looked at the papers with trembling hands. His entire life he had believed he was just an ordinary farmer. He had no idea that royal blood ran through his veins. By this time, a crowd had gathered. The villagers whispered among themselves. Alina, who had been at the market, heard the commotion and rushed over. When she saw the men in suits surrounding Samuel, her heart began to race. "Samuel," she called out. Samuel turned and saw her. "Alina," he said quietly. She walked closer. "What is happening?" One of the men stepped forward. "Mrs. Greaves, your husband is the rightful heir to the throne of the Northern Kingdom." Alina froze. She looked at Samuel, then at the men, then back at Samuel again. "What?" Samuel walked over to her and took her hands. "I did not know, Alina. I swear I did not know." Alina's mind was spinning. The man she had married, the humble farmer she had fallen in love with, was actually royalty. Mr. Thompson spoke again. "We have come to escort you back to the palace, Your Highness. There are many things that need to be arranged." Samuel looked at Alina. Her face was pale with shock. "I need time," Samuel said firmly. Mr. Thompson nodded. "Of course, we will wait, but please understand that the kingdom needs you." That evening, Samuel and Alina sat together in their small house. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Finally, Alina broke the silence. "How do you feel?" Samuel sighed. "I do not know. Confused, overwhelmed." Alina nodded. "I understand." Samuel looked at her. "Does this change anything between us?" Alina smiled softly. "No, Samuel. You are still the same man I fell in love with." Samuel felt relief wash over him. "But what do we do now?" Alina thought for a moment. "You have a responsibility now. You cannot run away from it." Samuel frowned. "I do not want to leave this life. I do not want to leave you." Alina took his hand. "You will not be leaving me. I will go with you." Samuel looked at her with gratitude. "Are you sure?" Alina nodded. "Wherever you go, I go. We are in this together." Samuel pulled her into his arms. "Thank you, Alina." A few days later, Samuel and Alina traveled to the Northern Kingdom. When they arrived at the palace, Alina could hardly believe her eyes. The palace was enormous. It had tall towers, golden gates, and gardens that stretched as far as the eye could see. Servants lined the entrance, bowing as Samuel and Alina walked past. Inside, they were greeted by members of the royal council. These were men and women who had been waiting for years for the rightful heir to return. "Your Highness," one of the council members said, "welcome home." Samuel felt strange hearing those words. This place did not feel like home, but he knew he had a duty to fulfill. Over the following weeks, Samuel was trained in royal protocols. He learned about the history of the kingdom, the responsibilities of a king, and the expectations that came with the title. It was overwhelming, but Alina was always by his side, supporting him through every step. Meanwhile, news of Samuel's true identity spread quickly. It reached the city where Alina's family lived. When Mr. Harrington heard the news, he could hardly believe it. He immediately called for his wife. "Did you hear?" he said, holding up a newspaper. "Alina's husband is royalty." Mrs. Harrington looked at the headline in shock. "A farmer turned king," she read aloud. Mr. Harrington sat down slowly. "I was wrong about him." Mrs. Harrington nodded. "We both were." Mr. Harrington looked at his wife. "We need to see her. We need to apologize." Mrs. Harrington agreed. Yes, we do. A few weeks later, Mr. and Mrs. Harrington traveled to the Northern Kingdom. When they arrived at the palace, they were escorted to a grand hall where Samuel and Alina were sitting. Alina looked up and saw her parents standing at the entrance. Her heart skipped a beat. "Mother, father," she said softly. Mrs. Harrington rushed forward and embraced her daughter tightly. "I am so sorry, Alina. We were wrong. We should have trusted you." Mr. Harrington stepped forward as well. "I was too proud and too blind to see what was right in front of me. Please forgive us." Alina's eyes filled with tears. "I forgive you." Samuel stood up and approached them. Mr. Harrington extended his hand. "I owe you an apology as well. I judged you unfairly." Samuel shook his hand. "All is forgiven, sir." Mrs. Harrington smiled through her tears. "We are so proud of you, Alina. You followed your heart and you were right." Alina hugged her mother again. "Thank you." Months later, Samuel was officially crowned king of the Northern Kingdom. The coronation ceremony was grand and attended by dignitaries from across the world. Alina stood beside him, dressed in a beautiful gown, as he took the oath to serve and protect the kingdom. When the crown was placed on his head, the crowd erupted in cheers. But even in that moment of glory, Samuel's mind went back to the simple farm, to the quiet life he had once lived. He realized that titles and crowns did not define a person. What mattered was the heart. After the ceremony, Samuel and Alina stood on the palace balcony looking out at the kingdom. "You did it," Alina said softly. Samuel smiled. "We did it together." Alina rested her head on his shoulder. "I am proud of you." Samuel kissed her forehead. "And I am grateful for you. You believed in me when I was just a farmer. You stayed with me when I had nothing. That is something I will never forget." Alina smiled. "And I will stay with you now, even though you have everything." Years passed. Samuel proved to be a wise and just king. He used his experiences as a farmer to understand the struggles of ordinary people. He implemented policies that helped the poor, supported farmers, and improved the lives of everyone in the kingdom. Alina became a beloved queen. She used her family's wealth and connections to fund schools, hospitals, and community projects. Together, they ruled with compassion and fairness. And through it all, they never forgot where they came from. They never forgot the small village of Greenfield, the simple farmhouse, and the love that had brought them together. One evening, many years later, Samuel and Alina returned to the village. The farmhouse was still there, though it had been maintained over the years. They walked through the fields together, holding hands just like they used to. "This is where it all began," Samuel said quietly. Alina smiled. "Yes, and I would not change a single moment." Samuel looked at her. "Even the hard times." "Especially the hard times," Alina replied. "Because those moments taught us what really matters." Samuel nodded. "Love, trust, and staying true to who we are." They stood together in silence, watching the sun set over the fields. And in that moment they both knew that no matter what titles they held or how much power they had, the greatest treasure they had ever found was each other. My wonderful viewers, true love sees beyond wealth, status, and appearances. It sees the heart. And when two hearts are meant to be together, nothing can stand in their way. What do you think about this story? Do you believe Alina made the right choice? Share your thoughts in the comments section. I would really love to read from you. A more interesting story will be coming in a few days, so make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss it. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching.